Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. Hey, Zach. Hi, Corinne. Hi, Bruce. I made it back 15 minutes ago, so that was
Hey.
good timing.
Hi. Sorry, my computer is like, I have my work laptop and it's being so slow. I'm trying to free up some space here, but sorry.
Okay. I just have to reopen the agenda. For some reason, it just closed. Okay, I'll just give another minute. We're just waiting for Walter. Bruce, can you hear us okay?
Hey, this is Brian.
Oh, hi, Brian.
Where's the meeting?
You're in it.
Oh, it's not in a location. It's only on Zoom.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm at the high school. I'm out in the parking lot, actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry, Brian. Zach had sent an email to the planning board stating that it was remote only and it's on the agenda. So the location is always listed on the agenda. You can check.
Okay. I saw that. I didn't see that little part. All right. Well, you know what? I'm just going to take a quick ride home. Is that all right? And get back, sign back on?
Yeah, that's fine. We're probably going to start the meeting, but you can just sign on when you come back.
Yeah, it'll only take me a couple minutes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm just going to text Walter really quick.
Can anyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us, Bruce?
Yes, I can hear you, and I guess when I'm talking, like a symbol of a phone comes up on the screen, but when I stop talking, your picture comes up.
Oh.
Okay.
Bruce, did Walter just get you set up?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just give it one more minute.
Bruce, it looks like you're on the computer, like you can see the screen on the computer, but you're using your phone for audio. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if you want to change the view, like you were just saying that your phone comes up when you're speaking and then otherwise it's Cheryl's face. If you move your mouse on your
Well, now
screen,
I'm looking at your face.
yeah, so it moves to the active speaker. So if you want
Right.
to change your screen so that you see everybody all at once, or you only see the screen that's being shared when there's a screen share, if you go to the upper, if you move your mouse to the upper right corner of your screen, there should be a little like bubble that pops up that says view. It's like a grid, and then right next to it says view, and you can click that to change how your screen displays what's happening in the meeting.
Actually, I don't see that. What I've got up in the upper right-hand corner is a circle around the letter I, then OK, and then leave meeting.
Okay,
I guess you're just stuck with my face then tonight, Bruce. Sorry in advance.
Well, only when you're talking. I mean,
Okay.
when Corinne was talking, her face was on the screen.
All right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully Walter and Bryant are able to join us soon. We have a quorum here with Chris and Bruce and myself, so we'll get started. So welcome everyone to this remote planning board meeting, February 7th at 7 p.m. The meeting is being recorded. I will go ahead and take roll call. Cheryl is here. Bruce.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Here.
Okay. And Walter and Bryant are absent as of roll call, but I suspect that we'll see them pop on shortly. Chris and Bruce, did you both have a chance to review the meeting minutes from January 3rd?
Yes.
Did either of you have any suggested revisions?
Yeah, on page 2 of the minutes, in the first full paragraph, the 1, 2, 3, the fourth line down, it says the planning board decides what we want to see when then goes through a town meeting process. I think we should cross out the word or delete the word and just put the word it in place of it.
Zach, you're nodding your head. Do you see that change?
Yes.
Okay. Bruce, was there anything else?
Also, yeah, the same page 2, the third full paragraph that begins Walter Gunn. On line 3, it says, or actually the end of line 2, end of 3, it says, he also referenced that former previous member, Roy Johansson of the planning board. We need to either cross out the word former or cross out the word previous.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Anything else, Bruce?
No, although, well, nothing else that's easy to correct. I do think, obviously the minutes are, or these minutes are a lot more comprehensive than any of our previous ones. I mean, it's almost like it's a transcript of the meeting. I'm not sure we need that much detail in them, in the minutes, but
Okay, no, I think that that's a good call out. I think Corinne used that AI transcriber. Oh, you didn't last time, Corinne? No?
No, this is
Oh.
a difference between myself taking minutes and Zach.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, when me doing the minutes, you know, it included sort of, I went for the sort of bare minimum, and Zach, being new to the planning board, wasn't totally sure how much detail you wanted to see or not see. So, you know, both styles of minutes meet the requirements of minutes. So it's up to the board, you know, sort of what you would like your minutes to look like, as long as it includes the necessary details. So Zach and I talked about this, and we thought we'd probably be getting some feedback tonight, just given the two different styles. So he's ready to hear that.
Okay. Thanks, Corinne. I agree, Zach. I think that these are really great and definitely comprehensive, but we might not need to go this far into, you know, transcribing what happened at the meeting, and maybe more of a summary view would be helpful for next time.
Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, I'll first, oh, I thought I saw Walter pop on, but so I'll entertain a motion to approve the planning board meeting minutes from January 3rd, 2024 as amended.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Cheryl, yes. Chris?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, hi, Walter. You're on mute.
I'm
There
like, I'm like crashing in and out of this connection.
Sorry. Okay.
And I have like state-of-the-art fiber connection, so this is weird. No, we seriously have a weird connection tonight. I don't know what's going on, but.
All right, first I'll recognize that you joined the meeting, so you're officially here. And then we were just looking over the meeting minutes from last month. Did you have any changes to them? Bruce had a couple of comments. Otherwise, we were all in agreement with approving them as amended by Bruce.
What were the amendments, Bruce?
On page 2, the first full paragraph, line 4, it says they want to see when then goes through a town meeting process. I suggested deleting the word then and substituting the word it. So in other words, it's what they want to see when it goes through a town meeting process.
Yeah, okay.
And then in the third full paragraph, which begins Walter Gunn, on line 3, it says that former previous member Roy Johansson, I suggested just deleting the word former, so it then just says that previous member Roy Johansson, press, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Do you have any other suggested revisions, Walter?
No, so
Okay.
has that motion been made and seconded to move the minutes as amended?
It has been made and seconded, and since I'll also recognize, Zach, that Bryant Miller has now joined the meeting,
Yes.
so we're all here.
Okay.
Okay, so we made a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended. It was seconded by Bruce, and we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, Cheryl, yes. Walter?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, great. There were no approval not required applications at the time of posting. We did receive a site and design review application. The applicant has requested that we continue the public hearing. So we'll open the public hearing tonight, and then I will entertain a motion to continue it to next month.
All right, so I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for case number 2024-0207-1 the matter of 1148 Converse Street, Long Meadow, Massachusetts, Lubavitcher Yeshiva Academy. Site
I'll
plan
s-
review.
I'll second the motion. All in
Okay,
favor? Cheryl, yes. Walter,
yes,
Bryant,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Bruce.
yes,
Okay,
Madam Chair, I'll read into the record then. since-
okay.
Okay, for the matter of this public hearing, for public hearing notice, the planning board will hold, it said hybrid, I will say remote public hearing on Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 at 7 PM to present and hear public comment for the site and design review application for 1148 Converse Street, Long Meadow Street, Massachusetts. Lubavitcher Yeshiva Academy pursuant to Chapter 315, Article 7 of the Code of the Town of Long Meadow. This public hearing notice has been duly printed in a circulation of a local distribution. The reminder, January 18th and 25th, and has been posted on our town website.
Thanks,
And-
Walter. All right, so I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to our next scheduled meeting, which is March 6th.
So moved.
All in favor? Cheryl, yes.
isn't,
Walter?
excuse me,
Yeah.
isn't that what we just voted on?
No, we
Or-
voted.
or
to open
were
the
we
hearing.
voting to open the public hearing?
We
Yeah.
voted to open the public
Oh,
hearing.
okay,
Now
sorry,
we're
my
moving to
mistake.
continue it. Okay,
O-
so Cheryl,
okay,
yes. Walter,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes,
Bryant.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Cheryl, did you mention why, for reason, just for the record, why we're continuing this?
I did. I just indicated that the applicant had requested that we move the public hearing.
I'm sorry, glitched out for a second. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
did they
So
indicate why they wanted to move it?
they just weren't available to come tonight, so.
Oh, okay,
And it seems like we have confirmation, Corinne, right, that they're available next month, so
I'm sorry, so when is our next meeting? It's
March 6th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so today I did receive the referral from the select board of the citizen petition to revise the zoning bylaw. So I'm acknowledging that we have received that, and we do need to set this for a public hearing, considering that we have the public hearing for the Lubavitcher Academy. I might suggest that we do this public hearing in April. I think, Corinne, that date still works, correct? Okay. You're
Yeah, we
not-
can have a
Yes.
public, I believe we can have a public hearing right up till town meeting convenes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our April date is April 3rd, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to set the citizens petition to revise the zoning bylaw for April 3rd.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Cheryl, yes. Walter,
Yes,
Chris,
Yes.
Bryant,
Yes.
Bruce.
yes.
Okay. All right.
question for that matter.
Mhm.
Will we post that petition somewhere for planning board and the public? What's the plan to post that? I mean, maybe the members of the planning board might want to see that now. Would that go into the active case file, Corinne?
It's on the active case files, yes.
Oh, it is in there now? Good, okay.
Yep. There, yeah, and to clarify, there are two citizens petitions submitted by the same person regarding the same subject, just targeting different, one is front yard and one is side yard targeting. So
I see it. So the applicant's doing a front yard again. Nice, okay.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to our discussion about the proposed revisions to the zoning bylaw. Corinne, I'll let you take it away here.
Great, so I had sent a memo to the planning board and can I just ask, has everyone had a chance to look that over?
Yes, it came in a rather timely fashion, Corinne.
Yeah.
But yes, I did read it.
Do you want to share your screen with it, Corinne, just so that we're all? looking-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my question is, I guess, essentially, should I share the memo or just go straight to the track changes? But I can pull up the memo really quickly. I'll just go to the
I
active
think
case
probably the
files.
track changes is okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So, and then today, so I had sent in what was attached to the original, agenda was, my track changes while they were still under review by town council. But at this point, Jay has reviewed them and added some comments of his own. So, let me share my screen. Okay, okay. So I assume you're all seeing this Word document.
Mhm.
I try and get rid of my floating Zoom thing so I can navigate Word a little bit better. All marked up. Okay, great. So as I stated in the memo, I originally started looking at this just with the eye of locating where exactly to switch out the ZBA for the planning board in terms of identification of who the special permit granting authority is. And found out that actually special permits are not identified in the sign regulations. But they are discussed in the general bylaw pertaining to signs. So, and then while I was reviewing the two bylaws together, the general bylaw, chapter 242 relating to signs, and the zoning bylaw relating to signs, it became clear that there is not only quite a bit of overlap. Sometimes that overlap was contradictory. Sometimes it wasn't quite contradictory, but it gave different information. And sometimes it gave very similar information. So, as I stated, it seems to me like having both bylaws is not only redundant, but potentially confusing. Although both bylaws are clear that chapter 242 of the general bylaws supersedes Article 9 of the sign regulations. So my recommendation overall is to move the majority of chapter 242 into the zoning bylaw and discontinue most of, if not all of, chapter 242. I do want to be clear that if that is the path that's followed, the discontinuance of all or most of chapter 242 would be a warrant article for town meeting, but that is not under the same purview as the zoning bylaw is for the planning board. So the planning board wouldn't have to hold a public hearing for the content of chapter 242 of the general bylaws, and it would not have to make a recommendation for chapter 242 of the general bylaws. Your purview is just this Article 9 of the zoning code. And so the rest would be, town staff and then the select board deciding to put it on the warrant, essentially. So are there any questions about that before we just start moving through the document, or should we just get started?
Well, would we want everybody on board, Corinne, then, that select board would agree to 242 going away or being modified, as well, like contiguous to us modifying the site and design review or the sign bylaw?
Yes, we would want to keep the select board not only informed, but hopefully get their, support of it. I was thinking, so they have, I believe that at their meeting on Monday, they had a version of the memo that I sent to you. So they had an understanding of why these two bylaws were being discussed. My thinking was that this is sort of on the agenda tonight is sort of workshopping what the planning board wants to do with the sign bylaws. And then once that has been, decided upon as the final recommendation. So not necessarily the public hearing, but the planning board is happy with the track changes as proposed. At that point, we would bring a package to the select board and say, this is what town staff and the planning board is recommending, here's why. And then there's still some questions that are under the purview of the select board for some of chapter 242. And so that would be something that they have to discuss themselves. But I haven't been in front of them yet to fully introduce the topic. My thinking was that the planning board would take the first step to see exactly what they want to recommend in terms of moving into the Article 9.
Fred, do you want to just jump in? Sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
Okay, on the 315-58 applicability, is the idea to delete the part that's underlined or highlighted in yellow? And then add because I thought the idea was that chapter 242 was going to be eliminated from the general bylaws.
Yeah, so I highlighted it, Bruce, because I don't have a recommendation for that yet. It depended on what the planning board decided that they wanted to do. So if the planning board decides that, yes, you want to move in most of 242 into the sign regulations, then probably that highlighted area would be deleted. It might be something too where we look at what's left over in chapter 242, and it might make sense to keep some of this highlighted language. Which is, that's just why it's not totally struck out yet, but I highlighted it so that it, was a visual reminder that we do have to address that. That
Okay,
one.
and then obviously the idea was to add, or the blue underlined part was to amend what you sent to us. But the red underlined part, I seem sort of going in reverse order.
Yeah.
Isn't the red underlined part already? Aren't those words already in the zoning bylaw?
Yeah, so the red underline, so the difference between the red and the red was my track changes, and then the blue is Jay's track changes that came in afterwards. So Microsoft Word keeps track of who's adding what. So that's the only difference between the color.
Okay. Well, I think the red and the blue changes are good.
Yeah. So the red piece was, this is verbatim from the general bylaw, chapter 242, this red piece that I copied in, but the essence of it was already stated, yes, in the zoning bylaw. What I'm doing here is recommending that it's instead mentioned in applicability, because this is saying like what's not applicable and what is applicable. Whereas originally in the zoning bylaw, the exception of the traffic was under, I think, like the general regulations section. So it just seemed to me to make more sense to state up front, we're talking about every sign here except for this sign. Because it's an applicability clause. Okay, so that's applicability. Moving down here, I think that there was like a couple like double spaces or typos in the definitions, which I'm not going to address. Those are just cursory or low level edits. So the next recommended revision here is under, sorry for all the scrolling. My screen is smaller than I'm used to. Under 31560 general regulations, B6. So the black again is existing language. And E6 is talking about flags, etc., all these other types of things which are sign-like, but maybe not like, we wouldn't automatically know that their signs are not permitted. This red track change is from 242. And it says, for the purposes of this bylaw, decorative flags suspended from residents shall not be treated as signs. And I included it here because E6 is specifically talking about flags. I did see that, Jay, you didn't necessarily have a comment here, so I'm curious if you think it matters or not, but I did pull off a comment on decorative flags because that's not something that's defined in the bylaw. I don't think we need to come up with a definition, but I think decorative is probably like a subjective term. And I wonder if we would rather use a term that's something like non-commercial flags, or like non-advertising flags.
Yeah, so that would be my thought. First of all, decorative is very subjective, and something could be commercial plus decorative.
Right.
So you could, it seemed to me that it was pretty plain that what was intended, because commercial messages are not permitted in the prior, so you have to harmonize those. But it wouldn't hurt you to be redundant to say, for the purposes of this bylaw, non-commercial decorative flags. Or I think we all know what we're talking about, but
I think it's funny, Jay, because we're not doing commercial messages with flags for commercial properties, but yet residents in Long Meadow, and has been now tested, are flying commercial flags from their house. I think Bryant might be familiar with one at the end of Maple Road, corner of Maple and Hazardville. There's a house that flies a Jeep flag. I don't know what I guess we have more control over commercial than we do over residential. I guess I'll go back to the First Amendment and all this stuff on, we've had these issues. We have control over commercial property, Jay, we have more authority over what. they can
Yeah,
do.
well, commercial speech is not protected.
Okay.
So you have control over
Okay.
commercial signage.
You'll need to have that conversation then with code enforcement, because that seems to have been a confusion matter here in this town. So, okay, good, thanks.
So is that something that sounds, the addition of non-commercial, does that sound good to everyone?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that
Yes.
specifically calling out the flag suspended from residences is also helpful, Corinne.
Mhm. Okay, great. So then moving into 31561 general standards, this is some semantical changes that I did. The original language said shall conform to the following restrictions, but they're not all restrictions. They're kind of standards, and the section itself is called standards. So I just changed that to standards. A here, this is what Bruce was referring to as being already listed in the bylaw. So I just moved that up into applicability. So it's not deleted, it's just moved. Oh, I see that I didn't change my comment though. It was, yeah, moved to applicability 315.8. Why was this highlighted? Maybe it's this one. Okay, so this is not a restriction, maybe it doesn't belong here, but where to move it? I guess I didn't know if this necessarily belonged here. If it's not a problem for being here, I think I probably meant to delete this comment. I don't know, I don't know if anybody has an opinion about that.
I don't think I don't think it's inappropriate where it is now.
Okay,
I mean, I think it could be considered a general standard.
so I'm just gonna unhighlight this. Okay. Okay, so then the next substantial recommendation is B here, or the new B here, which is used to refer to chapter 242, but it's talking about no sign shall be placed on public property. So that actually is not addressed in chapter 242. I don't know if it was originally, and then that was something that was changed, over time. But it's not addressed in 242. It is addressed on the select board town manager policy regarding objects on the tree belts, which is its own separate document that lives on the website and is something that the select board sort of just has reviewed to update as they would like. Jay here, I had referenced that here, and I think Jay did this much more elegantly, which is may be permitted by the select board. So really the recommendation here is just striking that reference to chapter 242. But the sentiment remains the same, which is that no private sign shall be placed on public property.
Brian, I just have a question about this. I recall when the festival on the green came up, and or some festival that was happening on the green, and I think that they were looking for permission to post a banner advertising whatever festival it was. Did they have to go to the select board for that, or was it the historical commission?
They may. I don't know if they also have to go to the historical commission in a location like that. It makes sense that maybe they do. That's not something that I heard about. They do have to go also to the select board for that. The process is not actually going to the select board.
Okay.
The policy gives the town manager the jurisdiction to act on behalf of the select board to approve or deny those signs. And in actuality, then delegates that to the building commissioner. So truly, people who are placing any type of temporary sign on a tree belt or on the town green or other town property, they're primarily working with Paul Healy to get those installed. And he gives them sort of like a timeline of the window that's allowed based off of if it's for an event or if it's for an election, and that keeps a record of what he has permitted and what he hasn't.
So should we say may be permitted by the select board, or should we? I could just see that causing confusion if that's not actually what's happening in practice.
Well, it is permitted by the select board, but then delegated. So I think
Okay.
the policy that sets this up does say to contact the town manager's office. But if that policy were to ever change, it's under the purview of the select board. So I think
Okay.
it's it means that we won't have to revise this as much if we just keep it with the select board, I think.
Okay, that's fine.
It does cause, that is like the number one question we get all the time, and people are just confused about signs. But I think
Well, that would also get back to our approval of the sign for the entrance to Bay Path College. They see the select board, which it was public way, they actually deferred it to the planning board, and we actually had to decide on and approve those entrance signs to Bay Path University. So you're right. So keeping it flexible is probably a good idea.
We may want to change public to town owned, because if there is any state owned property
Oh,
or
that's a good point.
Good point, Jay. Yeah,
and the other thing too, and I don't think we have to worry about it too much, is that in some instances, maybe the school committee controls some of their surrounding property. I'm not super concerned. We can still run that through the select board, but
Okay.
yeah.
Is there a difference, do you think, semantically between saying town owned or municipal?
No, there's not. It could be either, because it's not like another municipality owns land
Right.
in Long Meadow.
Right. Okay. Okay, so unless there's more discussion on that, we can move forward.
No, but I do kind of like how municipal sounds better than town owned, if everyone was.
That's what I was originally,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I asked. It's less of a mouthful. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so then the next one here, the new, old D, new C, signs necessary to warn of a hazard shall be permitted, and then Jay added to the extent such as signs are required by law. Jay, did you have any comments about your revisions here?
I'm just wondering if that's just an archaic thing. I don't know what it meant by post land. That could mean a few, I mean, I've certainly seen the phrase, but I'm not sure what is meant by that. I assume you're meaning the like no trespass signs?
Or no hunting. What is
Yeah,
it
or
possible
no
that it could
hunting or,
would that be a state law, a state regulation that you that a resident or a property owner in the Commonwealth has a right to post their property? And that would
Well, they do.
town law?
and They do certainly for no trespassing, but a state law is always going to supersede anyway.
Right. Okay. So leaving it in is just an extra layer of protection.
Yeah, posting land to me wasn't definitive enough a term to
No.
include there. It to the extent we wanted to make an exception. I mean, the statute says how you post land for no trespass, so
Okay.
that would always control over a local bylaw anyway. So I'm not too concerned over it, but other people could say, well, I'm posting my land as tax-free zone or something, like kind of get into it's not sufficiently definitive enough for me.
Well, we did have this issue. Remember, Bruce, the lady the citizen petition about the no trespassing signs on their property, and we had to come up with a conclusion to regulate. Apparently, there were way too many no trespassing signs, and I think it's in our bylaw here somewhere. It's got to be added in for that exact reason. It was overly stated that the property was no trespassing, and
you could, I mean, if you wanted to keep post land, or be more specific as to trespass, because that's the one that would more frequently come up.
well, the building commissioner is the sign enforcement officer. I think.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have authority over no trespass signs.
He wouldn't. So, so should we then even include it in the? Should even be.
Well, I don't mind it, is what I'm saying is.
Okay.
So
that
should
the
we say signs necessary to warn of a hazard or trespass shall be
Yeah.
permitted?
To warn of a hazard or I mean, what we could do is just reference the statute, and I'll have to dig that up. I forget if it's like chapter 266 or something like that, or per, you know, because it's a very specific statute. And I think that's what's intended, I'm assuming, Corinne, right?
I'm not sure. But then, so Jay, if, is the statute that governs like posting of signs against trespassing? I'm assuming, you know, hunting is a form of trespassing sign. Would the hazard also be included in that same statute, or are those two different sort of areas?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the origin of the warrant of a hazard thing. I left it in just because it seemed fine to me if there was like a health emergency or something else like that, or a roadway defect or some kind of other thing. It seemed kind of hard for me to think about how that may arise as being required by law, but I think it's conceivable.
So
Okay.
this is coming from the general bylaws, I assume then, because I mean.
This was
Putting it together to.
well, the black text is the original in the zoning bylaw, so this was not pulled from the general bylaws.
Wow.
Yeah, it would be chapter, it is, wow, I guess my memory is not altogether that awful. It is chapter 266.
Okay.
So is that what you would like to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm guessing that that's what's intended by whoever did this.
How would you suggest rephrasing this to just reference that chapter?
Signs necessary to warn of a hazard or no trespass signs posted pursuant to chapter 260 or GL chapter 266.
Oh. Okay.
And maybe instead of saying to the extent such signs, instead of as are required or comply with the law.
To the extent such signs are, sorry, I missed that.
To the extent that such signs comply with applicable law.
Okay. Such signs comply with.
Applicable law.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so then moving forward, signs should be neat and uncluttered, and the letters should be carefully formed, properly spaced. Jay calls out that this is not very enforceable.
That is definitely, that's completely
I
subjective.
kind of like it though. I feel like it just, you know, makes people,
I mean, it's there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I didn't strike it.
Mhm.
You just, I don't even know what if the building commissioner said that's a cluttered sign. I don't know. I wouldn't even know what to do with that if I was advising the zoning board of appeals. But it's almost folksy, so I kind of I didn't see the need to take it out. It's just kind of
It's sort of like those commercials with a disclaimer. They go up to like double speed on the voice and try to fit it into 1 second at the end of the commercial. Is that cluttered? I agree, Jay. It really is sort of. I mean, I guess it sends a message to somebody who wants to design a sign and says,
it's
"Wow,
a guidance doc. You know, it's hey, if you're
Guidance,
doing a sign, don't make it cluttered. Okay. I mean, so the fact that we can't enforce it doesn't.
right?
It's not something that I felt is a violation of law
No,
or something.
but it's a
like
nice
that.
reminder that you should post something that's nice looking.
yeah, I like
that's why-
Cheryl. I mean, at least it gives it's a guidance tool.
Yeah.
And yes, if it isn't enforceable and some, weirdo goes ahead and puts in, four point type on a huge sign, whatever. Okay.
No signs by 5-year-olds?
Of course you can. Why not? There's no age restrictions. Are there in our sign bylaw?
Sorry, I'm trying to remember to save this as revisions from tonight so that I don't mess it up with the different versions I have.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so it seems like we will leave that. Okay, so then the next major thing here, I moved up this clause, which came from placement standards below, because it's not actually related to placement or height, but rather to the condition, which D and E are also related to. So all signs, and then J added the blue here, and their support structures shall be legible and maintained in good structure and condition at all times.
Yep, that's good. Yep.
Yeah.
I guess I recommended deleting this all signs, including support structures thereof shall be neatly painted because it seemed redundant to good condition, but also probably for the same reason that Jay was pointing out the neat and uncluttered. It's like, is it painted or
It seemed
not?
like there was an easier way. I think between your
Yeah.
changes and my changes,
Yeah.
it just reads a little nicer.
Right, okay. Okay, so moving into placement standards, I think the only thing here is, again, copying and pasting that up to general standards above. The original C here, nothing else. Moving into 31563 illumination standards, Jay added some good language here. Animated and videotronic signs shall be prohibited. And electronic devices using changeable lights or images to convey time temperature to be exempt.
Yeah, it's good. That's more modern now. That's absolutely, we don't have that currently. And I never even thought of that, those stupid signs you see that are like literally motion pictures or
Yeah.
digital
Cartoons.
sort of, yeah, cartoonish, right?
Okay.
Could you just put that back on the screen for a moment? I'm writing it down.
31563. You see it, Bruce?
Animated and videotronic signs shall be prohibited. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, moving into 31565 districts and special regulations. One thing that I saw that was a difference between 242 and Article 9 was that Chapter 242 of the general bylaws states the class of a profession is allowed. So it's not specific as to which professions. But then the sign regulations say one professional nameplate for each medical doctor or dental practitioner. So it specifically calls out those two professions. And so that kind of suggests that no other professions are allowed to have nameplates up. So I didn't know if that was for a reason, or if there, if there was a reason that when the zoning version was written, it was so limited.
Well, maybe because in the day, for example, I went to a pediatrician on William Street and my dentist was on, I forget, Shaker Road or somewhere. But in the day, there were people working out of their homes with practices. I'm not sure if that's what that refers back to. I mean, it would have nothing to do in our commercial or professional zones.
But I see Jay's comment there about lawyers, accountants, therapists. I feel like we shouldn't just limit it to medical doctors or dental practitioners because there are other professions that share office space that also may want their name displayed.
I don't think this is office space, Cheryl. I think this is about residential use for professional uses. So it'd be like you having your office at your home on Ellington Street and you hang a sign out.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying now, Walter. Sorry, I missed that before.
Yeah, it is referring to home offices, but there are other types of professions that have home offices.
Look, you want to put it all in, why not? Why do we just say professionals? I mean, one professional nameplate.
For each
Well,
practitioner.
in the residential district are no office uses like a house converted to a small professional building. Is
No,
that,
you can do it, of course, yeah.
well, I don't know. And it says in sign, this is for signs in residential districts. So I
Right.
don't.
Yeah, it is permitted, but it just, you have to, the ZBA, you have to determine, off-street parking or on-street parking. It's trickier today than it was a long time ago. But I mean, you can go back to Long Meadow before, people they literally were working out of their home.
My thought too is it's not just home occupation. So if there could be a grandfathered like it looks like a house, but has 5 offices, a social worker, 3 doctors, a dentist, a lawyer, you know, whatever.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's
I
anything
don't
like
think
that.
we have that
now.
anymore. I don't think we have that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I was asking, it struck me, it might be for home occupation, but it might also be like if you had multiple professionals at a single location in a residential district, could each
Yeah.
professional get their own nameplate?
I don't think that'll happen here in Long Meadow at the moment.
So, yeah, this was before my time, so,
Well,
Walter, Bruce, and anybody else, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jay, I believe that in the past, Long Meadow has like required zone changes for that type of thing, such as Brewer Young Mansion, which was a residence in a residential district, was converted to a, still looks like a house on the outside, but it has multiple offices on the inside, and I believe it had to go to town meeting for a zone change, to allow that. So now it's a
Right.
a spot
that
parcel.
Did, though, in the past, there was a what is it? I guess on Shaker Road, opposite Hazardville. I think the house is still yellow, but anyway, there many years ago, like when I was in elementary school or junior high or maybe even high school, there was a woman doctor who lived there, and she had her office in her house. And further down on Shaker Road, closer to where Armadas used to be, there was a dentist who had an office in his house. I mean, he lived in the house, but he also had an office there. And those didn't have no zone changes were required for that. There may have been a few other dentists or doctors with offices in their house in Long Meadow. I think Walter mentioned he had gone to somebody who had that, which was
Yeah.
another place.
Right.
But they didn't require zone. I mean, again, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, we didn't require zone changes for that. They just did it.
I think insurance, modern equipment, sterilization, cleanliness, I think put these places out of business.
So I think that,
Yeah.
you know, just to kind of ground the thought, though, I think what we're talking about is there's, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 because again, it's just residential district. You're allowing one small sign for
Right.
one way of approaching this, and I've seen this for other, like in more typically in a home occupation bylaw, where they don't want to try and describe every single possible home occupation that doesn't involve manufacturing or
Right.
retail, but you would say, you know, medical doctor, dental practitioner, accountant, lawyer, and the like. You know, so you would list a few and then have kind of an ellipse there, so to speak, and a catch-all. And that way, because I read it the same way you do, Corinne, that it
Yeah.
seems like it's exclusive, and I don't think that's the intent. I think the intent is to catch up the kind of the white collar office
Yeah.
service industry.
There you go. I like that. Why don't we just call it that?
Jay,
Because I don't think
if,
that's really
if there's other
defined.
bylaws, if there are other bylaws that define who, like what type of home office and how many are allowed in any given residential district, could we just here, you know, knowing that those are defined in other sections of the zoning bylaw, could we here just say something along the lines of one professional nameplate for each home office
Yeah.
How about
And
we
then-
just
Each
cut the whole
permitted
item out?
home office
for each permitted home
or
office?
permitted or allowable, however.
Can we cut the whole item out? Because right now, as I see it, let's say you are a financial consultant and you are gonna have a few clients and you have to literally go to the ZBA to get a special permit to have that home occupation for a home business. I think in that process, the ZBA would have to, or then back to the planning board under whatever permitting process we're talking here, would have to then approve a little sign or whatever they want. I don't think this exists anymore. I think number 6 should be just struck. I think it's all by special permit. I think the fact you can't, my neighbor next door teaches a language and she has students there. And I think technically she should be permitted by the town to have this home occupation as a teacher. A person teaches math after school, all that has to be a separate process. And I think this is an archaic term that goes back to the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. I just don't think 6 should even exist.
Because did that happen to that guy that was doing the teaching out of his house on Maple Road a couple of years ago?
It'd be the same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, down by, you're right, down by, yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, going towards Grapevine.
Yeah, I think it all has to go through it has to go through a special permitting process. So Jay, I don't know if this is even a valid, number 6 is just even of any value anymore.
I don't know, still, if something could get a special permit or if something's grandfathered, seems like it still may be valuable to me.
Okay, so how you want to word it then? So what would be the?
I think Corinne was on the right track here, you know, to the extent that it's for permitted home if the intent of it is to catch those permitted home occupations, then I think that, you know, that would be your catch there.
Yeah, because it is only specifically in a residential zone. I mean, it
Yeah.
is specific to residential. There's no, we control all the other zones.
So one professional nameplate for each permitted home occupation.
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay.
Is it in the residential zone though? Because now we're in districts and special regulations, because what we're doing is.
Oh, or
A.
in A, signs in residential
Hey, I
districts.
see it. Thank you. I see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I missed before.
Okay, so there's one other thing to call out here, which was a difference between 242, which is that it says provided such signs shall not exceed 1 square foot in surface area. 242 had almost identical language. Like I said, it didn't call out doctors and dentists, but
Yep.
otherwise it was identical.
Right.
But it allows 1 square foot or 2 linear feet in dimension, or 2 feet in linear dimension. I'm not enough of a geometrist maybe to necessarily know how those two different measurements overlap, what the Venn diagram is between those two different measurements.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's, if we want to specify linear feet or if we just want to say 1 square foot. I don't know.
Well, I'd say 1 square foot. I mean, if it was 2 feet long, it would be 6 inches tall at a maximum. So that would be 1
Exactly.
square
Yeah.
foot.
Or the way that's worded, it could be, 5 feet tall at 2
Well,
feet
6
long.
inches by 2 feet would be a 1 square foot sign.
Yeah.
Well, it
Yes.
might be 5 feet tall, but it would be like
Well,
1
6
or 2 inches, only 1 or 2 inches
It
the
could
other
be
way.
You're right. It could be 1 inch by.
Okay. Yeah. Point taken.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we'll just keep 1 square foot. Okay.
Before you scroll forward, go back to see there, Jay. Back to what we were just talking about a minute ago about posting of signs for warnings and hazards. There you see number 5 there, right above what we were just talking about. That's the bylaw change we did. The signs relating to residential property protection or hunting shall not exceed 2 square feet in that area. That's an interesting sign. That was put in specifically for a resident who was overposting their property about no trespassing. See how they call it related to residential property protection? That was only recently in 2005.
Okay.
So that's okay.
It's fine.
It doesn't conflict with trespassing or any of the other sections or anything.
Well, I mean, again, I'm not sure that residential property protection is particularly definable, but I think the purpose here of that one is for hunting for the most part.
Well, I
so.
mean, yeah, if you have an ADT sign, alarm sign, that's technically the same thing. Okay.
Okay, what else do you have for us here, Corinne?
Well, here I just added the 2 linear feet in number 7, but I can,
Take that out.
delete that.
Okay.
I'll just do that right now. Oops, that's not what I meant. Reject.
Okay.
I
Okay.
have a quick question. On residential zoning, I don't know if you could tell me really quick, what's the difference between A1 and A2?
Hey, Brian, if it's okay, I'm just gonna table that for later because
Okay.
it's not on the topic of this right now. And
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we're getting through this because we're
It's
already,
the size of the lots.
Thank you,
We're-
Bruce.
let's just try to stick on topic though. 'Cause we
Okay.
have a few other things to talk about.
Okay, so then the next revision is under signs in non-residential districts. So here we have subsection 2(3), the planning board may, in its discretion in appropriate cases and subject to appropriate conditions and safeguards, permit an owner, lessee, or tenant to display under the provisions and limitations of subsection B of this bylaw, a sign or signs in addition to a single sign therein. So this was originally from the general bylaws 242, and this is what gave the ZBA the power to be the special permit granting authority. So I pulled this in from 242, changed ZBA to planning board, and otherwise the language is the same. I did have a question here regarding permit and owner. Jay, I don't know if you think it's important to like specifically call this a special permit, or if it's just implied in permit and owner and we don't have to be that like semantically.
Yeah, I kind of left that alone. I was going to insert special permit, but it struck me that you probably didn't want to go through all those formalities for something where you wanted to just give an exception. That doesn't mean it's not potentially appealable. There's another process for that, but obviously special permits carry a lot more formality. I was thinking of asking you in the margin if you wanted to go that far. It struck me that if you probably didn't need to, especially because you have a history of on a more informal basis of already weighing in on signs. So I left it alone.
I like that, Jay, yeah.
So in that case, Jay, could it look like what it, we can walk through like what an example might look like, where an applicant goes to the building commissioner and says, I want 2 signs here. The building commissioner says, this is not an intersection. It's not an allowable, per the bylaws, it's not allowable to have 2 signs here. You're going to have to go to the planning board if you want that. And then in that case, the applicant would just like take our old sign application.
Yeah, and make just a little sign application for it, or customize your other one. Yeah, and you can post it on the website too if you wanted, however you wanted to do it.
As opposed to having to do like the public hearing and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it just struck me that you probably didn't need all that formality. I'm not, if you wanted to make it more formal, then by all means do so and make it a special permit. But if that's not necessary, then so be it.
Okay. Any thoughts on that from the rest of the board?
Well, just that, well, if you have, I always use my gas station examples because that seems like we have in Long Meadow, but the gas stations tend to be abutting residential zones. So what happens, Jay, we have this tight relationship between residential zones and business zones. Is it not in our interest as a public entity to have public hearing on a special permit for, say, a gas station that wants to put 10 signs up, or the rooster tails, or some crazy kinds of designs that this is what, I mean, I can give one example, but it still abuts residential zones. Neighbors, there is a house that would look.
You can still say no.
Without going through the formality. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I like that because it makes.
I mean, you could also require as part of an application process, and you can just do a regulation that they advise abutting property owners before the meeting. I mean, you could do that however you want to do it. So, but if someone came in for a whole bunch of extra signs, you say no. Again, I'm not dictating what you should do. I just felt that it wasn't in there. I didn't feel the need necessarily to expand it to something more formal, but that's the board's call, however they want to move forward with that.
Well, Cheryl, it's a good question to ask the board then.
I mean, how's everyone feeling about this? I'm okay with the language as it's been proposed and that we've discussed tonight. Does anyone else have thoughts?
Yeah, I am too. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here.
I think we can move on, Corinne.
Okay, I just want to call out, I think Bruce on the phone dropped out. His computer's still here, but we probably can't hear him. Walter, do you think he knows how to get back on with his phone?
It looks like he just went to help him.
Is Bruce in his house?
I'm not sure.
Should we wait a second, or what do you want to do?
We can wait a second.
Okay.
Oh, all right, Walter, you're back. Were you able to help Bruce? You're on
Muted.
mute, Walter.
God, here I am talking to you guys. I'm on mute. No, I'm gonna reconnect him. He's watching it, so
Okay,
it only took a minute here to put him back on.
okay.
Unbelievable.
Are you guys together, Walter?
No, Bruce
Oh.
doesn't have long distance calling. Apparently, you can't call that number, the Zoom number.
Oh,
Oh, you there? Okay, I'm gonna ready. Hold on, Bruce. I'm gonna patch you in. I'm gonna add a call. Here, hold on. Okay, hold on. Let's see. It's 646. 5, 5, 8, 8, 6, 5, 6. Okay. Oh, man. Okay, we're almost there. Bruce, are you there?
Oh, oh,
Is Bruce back on? Bruce?
looks like, yep, looks like he is. He's muted. I don't know if do you know if he knows how to unmute himself, Walter?
It could be me. This is crazy.
Do you want me to Google that or you know how to do it?
I don't think I'm connected. I don't think I'm connected to him. Bruce? Hold on.
Walter, try dialing *6.
I'm doing merge calls. Here we go. Hold on. Bruce? Bruce? Okay, good. Okay. Can you hear it for me? Okay, there you go. Bruce,
Hello,
can you hear
can
them?
everybody
Oh,
hear me?
hi, Bruce. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, terrific. I can hear you too.
Okay, sorry we lost you.
Okay. So, so the next item here is, sorry, I lost track of where we are. We're still in commercial signs,
I'm
our
back.
commercial non-residential districts. And, subsection 6 here says no signs shall make reference to a specific item. Oh, so what I did here is I merged the clause from 241 that seemed also relevant to what the original language in the zoning bylaw said, which was about temporary advertising signs and inside windows. So from 242, it says no signs shall make reference to a specific item or items for sale within the premise except for on temporary advertising signs inside windows at any point within the area normally devoted to the service of customers. So all of the red there is from 242. The black is from the zoning bylaw. Then the bottom part of this says the standard shall not apply to businesses devoted to the service of motor vehicles, which may be allowed to advertise the sale of specific, it said items on a primary sign in the manner and extent approved by the select board. And then the blue language here are Jay's proposed revisions, but I highlighted this last piece because I didn't totally understand the purpose of it. And I also don't know why it calls out the select board instead of the ZBA, or as we would revise it to the planning board. So I don't know if there's any history there that anyone could enlighten us to, or Jay, you might know about, there might be some weird law.
So well, I have a couple comments here, and questions. Does the zoning board or the planning board issue special permits for vehicles, used car sales, or is it really only coming up in the licensure component of that under the select board? I'm assuming someone issues special permits for, like, if you wanted to open up a used car lot.
We don't
But I-
have any used car dealerships in town.
There are no Class 2 licenses in town?
No, I think like the Long Meadow Motors or whatever they are, I think they're actually in Enfield. I don't think they're even in Long Meadow.
They're in Enfield, though ironically, their sign that says Long Meadow Motors is in Long Meadow.
Yeah.
But everything else on their property is in Enfield.
So
Connecticut.
Bruce, we don't have any used vehicle
No,
clients in town.
And we have the places that.
although
service motor
sometimes you'll see like a
vehicles.
car parked in somebody's driveway with a sign on it that says
No,
for
that's
sale.
not-
Oh,
the same
actually, you
thing.
know what, Jay, this is actually a good point to bring up suddenly. I just clicked with me. This has been a problem with the code, the building, commissioner, is that, there is a establishment in town that does sell used cars on the corner of, Maple and Shaker Road. And he said he can't enforce anything to tell them to stop selling used cars. Now, they're
Is
not.
that the gas station there? The
Yeah.
mobile?
Yeah, and it was a frustration of Paul Healy's. I don't know if that still is a problem with them or if they resolved it, but Corinne, he did not have any said he didn't have any strong arm to
Well, I
stop
guess
them.
that's what this would apply to then. This standard shall not apply to businesses devoted to the service of motor vehicles, which that business is, which may be allowed to advertise the sale of specific vehicles on a primary sign. That,
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're
so
serving-
this specifically applies to that business.
so that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they can do that.
Well, it's also perspective.
not-
I mean, someone could, some other business could potentially seek a Class 2 license in the future.
Yeah, true.
I mean, there, a lot of towns have some where people just want to do 2 or 3 at a time.
Who approves Class 2 licenses? Who have eventually, does that go to the select board or the state?
Class 2 licenses go to the select board.
That's why this, so Jay, you think that's why the sign is under the purview of the select board then?
Yes, that's
Okay.
why I think it is. I just wanted to tighten
Good,
it
I'm
up.
glad we just thought of that because it just clicked with me. I'm sorry.
I have seen the only other thing, and this was more of a comment, I didn't put it in there. The other exception to this is where it used to be more so with supermarkets or small like bodegas where there would be signs in windows with specific items of the week.
Mhm.
And so I've seen that called out for specifically in some town bylaws. If it's not applicable, I'm not trying to create a new class of sign, so I didn't put anything
Yeah.
in. So,
Well, my understanding is that's the purpose of this. I think Paul Healy it came up relatively recently, although I don't see a amendment referenced here. Where he was saying that the sign bylaw was revised relatively recently to allow this section here at any point, those particular items can be advertised at any point within the area normally devoted to the service of customers. So for example, at Big Y, where you would like to keep the carts outside, like you can have specific signs there.
Right, that's true, but, okay, yeah.
Okay, so then in that case, the red is really just coming from chapter 242, seems to make this more specific. Does that look good to everyone?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everything else is just being renumbered here. Okay, then once again, now we're under 31566 administration and enforcement. So the building commissioner, A3, the building commissioner or sign officer shall act within 30 days of receipt. The failure, instead of being appealed to the ZBA, will be appealed to the planning board as they are now the special permit granting authority here. And then a new subsection 4 here. If owing to the special circumstances and conditions pertaining to the location and purpose of a sign, a less literal interpretation or strict application of the provisions and requirements of this bylaw would be justifiable under the criteria established by 315.57, the petitioner may apply to the planning board. I had written a variance, and then Jay, you had revised that to waiver of such provisions of the bylaw. Is that again, just to like make it a less formal, keep it less formal?
Well, you don't give variances.
Only the ZBA does.
Yeah, so if you make it a variance, essentially no one's ever going to be able to prove it under the statute.
Right,
So-
okay.
It sets the bar too high.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Okay, so that's a new little subsection there. Okay. So then under enforcement, Jay calls out that this maintenance removal, each sign shall be maintained in good structural condition. This is all redundant. We went over that under general standards. So Jay, do you, like, is that just sort of like a note? This is redundant. We could do with deleting it to be less wordy, or do you have a concern?
No,
that
it's just that it was, the same thing was above. Yeah, so I don't mind redundancies. I just wanted to point out in case
Uh-huh.
people are trying to keep things shorter, that there was
Yeah.
the same requirement existed above.
Yeah, I kind of do mind redundancies because if we ever go back in to try and change that specifically, we
Sure.
have to keep our eye out
So
for.
I would say either take the other one out or take this one out or something like that, or make sure that they sync up a little bit better. But
I
they
think that
say
we
they're
could
almost
take-
the same thing.
I
Yeah.
think that we could take this out because it then goes on to say that the building commissioner or sign officer shall inspect and have the authority to
Right.
order, basically that the sign is well maintained, which we indicated above that it needed to be. So maybe we just take that out.
Yeah, I agree. That is redundant right in its own section there.
Yeah,
We
so that
repeat-
reads better, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I
Okay.
like it. Certainly very clear message there.
Okay, so then, Jay just added this here, shall issue an order to be removed for the building commissioner or sign officer, and then what was originally written, cause to be removed. So that's just allowing for him to, require it to be removed instead of him going to do it himself.
Yeah, and I'm also mindful of the fact that I really don't want the building commissioner or sign officer actually physically removing anything from anyone's property.
Sure, yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to kind of lean on the fact that issuing orders are really, without a court order, is probably going to be what's going to happen 95% of the time.
Okay, so, Jay here also points out under non-conforming signs that abandonment has already been discussed above, so this is another instance of redundancy, although I'm not remembering off the top of my head, this might be a little bit more specific, no less than 6 months. I don't know that was mentioned before.
Yeah, this one did seem a little more specific, so they were maybe, I mean, they show up in kind of a slightly different place, but I think to your prior point, this is probably the better place because we normally see abandonment under non-conforming when we're structuring zoning bylaws.
That's good. And as a point of enforcement, we can discuss right now on Shaker Road, there's properties with signs that don't belong to any tenant anymore, sitting on top of buildings.
That was a good catch, Jay. I didn't catch this, and actually they conflict with each other because this says a period of 3 months and the other one says 6 months.
Right.
Is there any, do we want to keep any of this? It's under, oh, it's still under enforcement. Does it come up multiple times?
What's the other reference, Corinne? Can you just scroll down?
Yeah, so under non-conforming. So it's under enforcement and non-conforming. So,
But they're both enforcement provisions.
sure. Yeah, and so this says no less than 6 months and the other one said 3 months.
I think we could probably just take this out, right? Abandonment is abandonment regardless of whether it's a conforming or non-conforming sign. Right?
So this would be, so I think, I want to take a look at both of them again. So this one is probably relates to a pre-existing non-conforming sign. So it's talking about abandonment.
Oh, yeah, you're right. If a non-conforming sign.
Which typically, where do we get rid of non-conforming signs when the changes property owners or?
Well,
what-
there's abandonment in other contexts of non-conforming structures, but go to the other one now, Corinne. I think they are for two different purposes.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's,
But could we add in this abandonment related to non-conforming signs within the enforcement of abandonment generally?
Well, I mean, I think they're kind of two different concepts.
yeah, so, yes, so this here under
So this
enforcement.
one is for a vacant, for a business that has just stopped.
Yep, and the sign is no longer maintained, the business is not around. And then the one we were just looking at is,
Losing your grandfathered rights, essentially.
But
exactly,
also for a business that has been abandoned. So your business has been abandoned, similar to above, but if your sign is non-conforming and your business is abandoned, the non-conformity just goes away. So it's both for businesses that are abandoned and no longer in existence.
yeah.
This just specifies that if it's non-conforming and abandoned, you then have to come up with a conforming sign.
Would it be helpful if I copy and paste the other one right next to this one so we can see them together?
I think so.
Okay, all right, let me go back up.
So I guess I wonder if, because this says any sign that is located on a property which becomes vacant and is unoccupied for a period of, we could do 6 months. So it's any sign really that's conforming or non-conforming. And then I wonder if, because we then go on to specify permanent signs, temporary signs, and I wonder if we then specify that, if it's a non-conforming sign, it should be removed and its non-conformity shall not continue, just within this section rather than calling it out again in the non-conforming section. It's still been abandoned.
If we were going to try to combine them, I would think it might make more sense to make everything 3 months rather than everything 6 months.
Well, I think 6 months is maybe a better number just because the seasonal variability and of a business that may be struggling or something like that and needing a fresh start. It's just my own 2 cents, but yeah, I think Cheryl, to your point, I think we may be trying to fine tune this too much, and one section could probably cover both contexts.
So in that case, would you recommend that they are both located under non-conforming signs, which I think you said typically was, isn't it?
I think it would be better to maybe have it back up in the enforcement. Actually, yeah.
Okay, so can we workshop it here and then I'll move it under enforcement? So if a non-conforming sign.
I wonder if we just add it to the end. If a non-conforming sign has been abandoned, it shall be removed and its non-conformity shall not continue. So to the end of your red section there. So an abandoned sign is prohibited and shall be removed by the owner of the sign or owner of the premises. But I think, don't we say that we can remove the sign too? Or did we talk about that before, Jay? And you said no, the owner should remove the sign.
Well, that's.
Well, I mean, we can issue an order.
Right.
But of course, if it's been abandoned, the owner is perhaps no longer there. Also, these aren't necessarily in business zones. These are in residential zones. So I mean, that's why I think the 3 months is better than 6 months.
Well, where do we have signs like that in a residential zone?
I don't know.
Are we still in the residential section?
Well,
No.
I mean, again,
No,
It's
this
just
is
generally.
this is I think in any I think isn't this in the entire town?
Yeah, I think it's just generally.
I actually kind of have them stacked there because you could have a 3 month and a 6 month. So the 3 months relates to If you're not using a sign, you got to take it down.
Yeah,
And
So it
the
does
six, the
specify-
6 months relates to if you have a pre-existing non-conforming sign and its parent use
mhm.
has been abandoned, then you lose the non-conformity. Which means you can't put that sign back up. If the business was revived or something like that.
Okay,
Would our gas stations then, back to that thing where they've gotten special permits to have non-conforming signs? Are they a non-conformity? But they'd be given a special permit, so the gas station goes out of business, the signs sit there. What are they at this point?
Well, I mean, they have the same rights as other pre-existing non-conforming structures if they are pre-existing non-conforming.
So hence the reason why we have the conforming and the non-conforming language.
okay. So I have moved that language up to enforcement B3. Just added that non-conforming language down below the original abandoned signs per Cheryl's recommendation. I'm going to delete this comment. So it all lives here now. And then if we go back down to non-conforming signs, D3 has now been struck. So there will be no D3. It's just D1 and 2.
I think that makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay, great. And that's it.
Excuse me, is all the language that was in D3 now at the end of,
Yes.
what is it, B3?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep, nothing has been deleted there. Okay, and so that's the end of that. So I'm going to stop sharing on this one. And so I just want to remind everyone what the timeline is for town meeting. I actually don't recall off the top of my head the day that the warrant articles are due to the town manager's office before the select board starts their final and semifinal reviews of the warrant. But I would recommend, it is sometime in March. So I would recommend that the planning board, is ready to vote on whatever language they want to put forward in the warrant article by March. You might feel like you're ready to take that vote on this bylaw now, or you might feel like you want to sit on it and take that vote next meeting. You don't have to hold a public hearing next meeting. You could hold a public hearing right up until and through the May meeting and make your recommendation at that point, but we just need the language for the warrant article voted on for the select board by the March meeting.
Okay, does everyone feel like we could take a vote on this now, or do you want to wait until next month?
I don't know.
I'd
think
be
it's-
willing to vote now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Bruce, you want to make a motion to?
Okay, I will make a motion to recommend that the, let's see, amended sign regulations for Article 9 of the zoning bylaws be whatever recommended for approval at the spring town meeting.
Okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor, Cheryl, yes, Walter,
Yes.
Bryant,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Okay,
Great. So also just a reminder that what's going to happen now is that I will put this forward to the select board and they're going to kick it back to you just the same way you have to.
So they have to
Okay.
vote to delete or to amend their general bylaws of the.
Yes. Yep. And so what will happen with that is that I'm going to write a memo that's more thoroughly explaining the relationship between the two and what the planning board has recommended to do. And I'm going to send that to the select board and I will CC the planning board on it, but it will be primarily addressed to the select board. They may or may not want to discuss that in an upcoming meeting, or they may feel like they totally understand. So I will keep you in the loop about that.
okay. Should we just set this for a public hearing now so we don't lose sight of it? We could put it on for April.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. So why don't we set this for a public hearing at our April 3rd meeting? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Corinne, I'm just opening this up.
Yep.
So Zach you hear that, Zach? So for timing and public hearing notices and all that.
Do we want to talk about special permits really quick?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I know that we're kind of probably feeling a little bit of exhaustion, but
Well, this one's easy.
okay.
I did just realize, I totally forgot that when you exported track change documents from Word into PDFs, it doesn't automatically keep the red line changes. So that's probably when you were looking at the agenda, you did not see any red line changes. You just saw accepted language. So I apologize for that. Instead of pulling it up from the memo, I'm just gonna find it. I mean, from the agenda, I'm just going to find it on my
Okay.
computer very quick. Oh, shoot. Okay.
We could also talk about it. We could move it to our March meeting because we still have time. We can put it on.
Okay.
for hearing in
Yeah,
April.
I actually think it's saved on the network drive and not my personal computer, so I'm not going to be able to show the red line version. So that's
Okay.
probably a good idea, Cheryl, just so
Okay,
you can see the
so
language.
I'll make a motion to remove, can't even speak anymore. Sorry, I have been up since really early this morning. I'll make a motion to move our agenda item 6.2 regarding the proposed revisions to the special permit procedure to our March 6th agenda. Is there a second?
Yep, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, Cheryl? Yes. Walter?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Okay, great. Jay, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I think everyone is aware from our last meeting, we were working on getting a training for site plan review from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I forget, Corinne, where it was coming from, but anyway, they weren't
There's some
really,
planning training.
okay. They weren't able to accommodate us. And so in speaking with Jay, I understand that your firm offers trainings like this often and that you're able to do a training like this for us, but we wanted to understand, I guess, basically what the training will go over and then understand from the group whether there were any specific items that we wanted to go over or have Jay address during a training. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I mean, and when in my conversations with Corinne, and I think you may have been copied or got some forwards there, Cheryl, we could do the ABCs of this, or we could actually cut to the chase and work on the issues that are significant concern, what it is, how it is, what your limits are, what you can do and can't do. So I think what we decided that we'd look at tonight is kind of frame what that training may look like. So I can do it again. I could do a soup to nut zoning training that includes literally every kind of application you may see, zoning and subdivision, or we could be more targeted to specific elements of site plan review that where problems may have presented themselves in the past. So we're looking, I think what Corinne and I thought would be good is if we kind of got feedback on what people are seeing there as some issues that may come up repeatedly or they have concerns about for the future, so that we could make a more concise training or not again.
I think Jason, the subdivision could be something we could do, let's say on a moment's notice, if we really do have a subdivision application. I think site and design is still the most important aspect. And I think it's important to hammer down some of the state law and what a planning board, what our authority is on site plan review. And, obviously what it entails, because we've had a tendency in the past to sometimes think we can just turn down a site plan. And I've had this issue several times, and you can't do that. And that kind of training is really good so that it avoids us hiring you to have to defend us because we turned down an applicant for site plan review. So that's my 10 cents worth, but everybody else can chime in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jay, personally, I'd appreciate a general overview with some questions that come up organically during your presentation, but I'd also appreciate your feedback. You've sat through quite a few of our site and design review applications in our public hearings at this point, and I would appreciate your feedback on areas maybe where you think we fell down during the process, or some other things that you think might be important for us to kind of keep on our radar as we take in these applications.
Yeah, and I really haven't seen the falling down in terms of the way you have approached it. I mean, site plan review is more on the kind of design, the kind of more holistic approach to things, and the less rigid go, no go things, which you would reserve for something where you want to retain the jurisdiction to say no. Site plan shapes a project, special permit can decide whether or not the project works at all. There's always a growing body of law under site plan review, and I hear, but have not seen firsthand because it hasn't come across my desk, that post site plan review, what are the board's rights to seek enforcement, to preserve the conditions that you want to do, what you can, what you can't do after it leaves your hands, what the role of the building commissioner is, because it's a stronger role, those kinds of things that are unique to site plan that are out there, how far we can go with conditions. When you get an applicant that says you can't deny me, what do you do? You know, those kinds of just basic practice tips, because site plan is something a little different. It's not even in the zoning act. So, but I could go through some of that there and how it goes, and you know, where you cozy up to the line or maybe go a little over the line, and not that I've seen it with your board of site plan review and veer into something that would probably be more reserved for special permits.
Okay.
So
Chris, Bryant, Bruce, do you guys have any comments or any wish list items for a site and design review training?
I don't, what Jay just said sounds good. That's what I'm, just general overview of everything like that, and because I'm new
Okay.
to all this stuff too, so anything would be a help for me.
Bruce?
Yeah, Jay's proposal sounds good.
Okay. Okay.
Nice-
Chris, I
nice-
see you shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah, it's nice to put real,
Okay, yeah.
real world together with, you know, with the law. So, being our town, because we don't have industry, and so that'd be really town specific is great.
Okay. I was going to suggest that we set this for a special meeting so that we weren't trying to cram it in at one of our regularly scheduled meetings. So perhaps we can set, let's look at our calendars and we can talk about it maybe when we come back together in March. And Jay, maybe you can send some dates over to Corinne, and then we can figure out a date that works for everyone and where there's space for us to do the training, or if we want to just do it on Zoom.
I'd like to do it in person. I think this is
Okay.
one, we'll have better conversations if it's in person.
Okay.
The only thing I want to be mindful about in scheduling is if we want to get it done before town meeting season hits, great. If town meeting season hits, you're going to get harried and tired, Jay Tellerman. And I think all of you will have a lot on your plates with zoning and things around town meeting as well. So if we're into that kind of late April through most of May area, then I would want to do it after.
Okay.
If you have time on your schedule to do it before that, then that's fine too.
I'm speaking for all of us, but I think that we could all probably find one day to do a training in between now and April. If you have some dates that you want to send around, Jay, and we can, maybe Corinne, could you do like a doodle poll? Okay. Okay, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about the training, Jay?
No, I mean, again, whatever you all like to see. I mean, I've been to some of the regional planning agency trainings. I find them to be dry.
Okay.
I have nothing against the regional planning agencies. They can be a nice resource. My goal in this training is to get all of you talking and about your experiences and how we could problem solve. I will have a whole bunch of topics as conversation runs dry that we can turn to. But I mean, I'll sit up at a desk and talk for 2 hours and you guys don't have to say anything, but I don't think that's particularly productive. So I'm going to try and provoke conversation.
Okay, that sounds great. Speaking of provoking conversation, I was hoping that you could also, I know that there's been a lot of things going on in town, and there's definitely an inclination to maybe respond on, the forum or put in your 2 cents on social media platforms. And so I was just hoping that you could remind the group about proceeding with caution and
Yeah.
set
So
some points there.
yeah, and a few things were brought to my attention. And I think at some point in Long Meadow, Lynn will probably have me in to do a larger kind of open meeting law kind of seminar where I talk about some of these things.
Mhm.
Facebook, and I think we all get on social media, maybe not all of us, but in one way, shape, or form, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or what have you.
Mhm.
And for me, I try and limit it to pictures of my dog, but and resist getting into the things I do in my community. But I think the temptation is there, and it's almost one of those no good deed goes unpunished kinds of things. So to the extent I can never, nor can you, nor can Lynn, prevent anyone from exercising their free speech rights. On these social media, you have that right, and you can talk about it, even if it's a topic that might touch your role as a planning board member. The caution I want to give, that because I've seen a post or two that gave me some concern with respect to a municipal board member in Long Meadow, is that you cannot make a representation as to the entire board. You have to be careful about espousing positions of the entire board. You have to really be careful about deliberating on social media if there happen to be a quorum. But beyond that, if you want to give your own personal opinion about a new shopping mall or something like that, or a new subdivision, okay, I can't prevent you from doing it. I probably would stay away because you're just going to get bombarded on social media, and that's never any fun. But to the extent that you are uttering your impression or your position, and you're speaking as if the entire board was speaking, that's the trouble spot. And I would really caution people. I saw one comment in particular, I'm sure it was inadvertent, but someone said this, essentially spoke as if they were representing the position of the board. And I think that that's something that we just need to be mindful of, for a few reasons. One, you couldn't possibly be doing that unless the board took a vote and directed that statement out there. And second, you're a team, and the team should all row in the same direction and act according to votes. And then if you want to make your position public on something after that, fine. But be mindful of espousing a position, particularly on something that might be hotly contested, and that exists out there. Give your personal opinion if you must. Try and refrain from saying the position of the planning board on this. Like if you jumped on Facebook tomorrow, Cheryl, and I doubt it's something you do, and say the position of the planning board on that, intersection is X. Unless the planning board directed you to do that, you shouldn't. I think that's the message, really.
Hey, can I ask a clarifying question? So, do we have to worry about if any board so like a planning board member or any board member is on social media and talking about maybe like a project that we either know is imminent coming before us, or maybe has already come before us, and they were to just give their opinion, and they didn't even say like the board feels this way or the board is going to do this, but just sort of like, I hate to use a real business because this is a public meeting, but let's say, for example, I hate McDonald's comes up a lot. I hate McDonald's, like this McDonald's is coming in here, and they don't even say I'm on the planning board, but this person's well known.
Yep.
Does the board have to worry about like liability or like accusations?
So no. Well, yes and no. So, and I'll give you a very kind of more stark example that I use when I talk to board members about espousing their opinions. I was representing a town where a strip club was proposed and they didn't have an adult entertainment, shame on them, bylaw. So they were trying to locate it. And the permitting board, a member of it, was very public that he didn't want it, that he didn't think it was right for the town, and he didn't want it. And when the board ultimately denied it, of course, these have all kinds of First Amendment implications. There was a big suit, and there was an appeal of the denial as well as a big suit. And they said that board member was biased, and that bias affected their proposal, and that liability could ensue from that. And what the court said, and there's tons of cases on this, is that no, you don't shelve your opinions when at the door, whether pre-application or even during the initial stages of a hearing. So someone comes in and I'm not trying to state a specific, a shopping center that wants to come in Long Meadow. A board member says beforehand, I'm not crazy about this project. I'm going to have real problems, potential problems with this application. Okay. Even if when the hearing opens on that first day, the board member says, listen, I'm not crazy about this design. This has to change or something like that. Those are expressing your opinion, and you're free to do that. Now, sometimes there's a right time and a wrong time to do that, but you're free to do that, and there's no liability that attaches to your First Amendment privileges. If you said as a board member, I'm denying this project. I hear that there's a shopping center coming. I'm denying it. That's pretextual, because you're charged with the responsibility to hear impartially the matter before you and keep an open mind. You can come in with a bias, but your ultimate decision has to be a product of the facts. So if you signal that I don't care what the facts are, I'm canning this thing, that's when liability happens. That's when civil rights happen. So there's a line there not to cross. So again, social media also is famous for things getting taken out of context. So that's why sometimes less is more, but I also don't want to tell people not to have their opinions. You do have your opinions as board members.
Okay, thanks, Jay.
Of course.
Okay, other business, long range plan update. So this is very exciting news. We are getting close to having a final product of our long range plan, which is, I don't know, I'm pretty pumped about it. I feel like it's fun to see the work finally coming together. So at some point in the next couple of months, we are going to have a time when Barrett Group comes and gives a presentation. I was going to suggest that they present it to us and the select board at the same time, just so that everyone is, hearing about the plan. But, hopefully soon we'll be looking at a pretty final product, which is exciting. Did you want to add anything to that, Corinne?
Nope.
Okay. Maybe we'll even be looking at some sample pinwheels for, general. Anyway, okay. Did you have any other comments, Corinne?
Yeah, so
You want-
actually I was gonna turn it over to Zach for this part. We had talked about at some previous meeting after we had taken signs applications out of the purview of the planning board. The board had expressed interest in maybe seeing a sign report.
Mhm.
So Zach pulled together on very short notice one today from the building department, and he wanted, I asked him to share that with you to sort of get a sense of like what in particular you might be interested in seeing at future more regular sign reports. So I'll let Zach take it.
Sure, and let me just share the screen. So ultimately, you guys can see this.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I started the conversation over with the building department on what you guys asked for, which was, can we get what sign applications are coming in each month, so we could kind of review that. This is what you're seeing on screen is ultimately a report from the sign applications that were all from 2023.
Mhm.
Sign applications come from the building department building permit application. It is a part of the building permit application. So it's not technically reported as like work type signs until a permit number has been issued. So if it is in like process, it is still considered like a general building application. So if we were to need to pull what signs are related, it would be having to scrub through every building application to then deem what involves a sign. Now, generally, if it's commercial, there's probably a sign involved. There's things like that. But it's not necessarily that we can just say like click signs based on the software that they use, which is called PermitLink.
Okay. I mean, how difficult is it to do just pull a monthly?
That's something, because this was something that Corinne and I just talked about. So that's something I need to go into more detail with Heidi, who generally uses PermitLink for the building department.
Okay.
And we'll see. I'll go through with her like how many are we talking about here, and how can we like do that effectively so that you guys can get this information.
Okay, I think that would be helpful. I'm looking at all of these signs here, and I think we saw all of them.
Yeah.
Just generally, so.
Correct. Like she mentioned like Lola's, that's currently in
Mhm.
process. And I think that probably should have come up in her search. But generally how they've been using it and how that's verified based on the permit numbers,
Mhm.
it doesn't signify like sign type. If it's technically an open application in various review stages.
A question that I have for the board is, so let's say, for example, that the questions that Zach, brought up get sort of worked out. Obviously, we don't, just looking at this for 2023, we didn't have a sign application every month. In fact, most months we didn't have a sign application. So assuming that we can, figure out a way to easily get information to you on the months where there is a sign, is this, like looking at this, what more information do you want? Do you just want to know the address and like, for example, the work description is kind of like, how big the sign is and what it's for, or what in particular, what type of information are you looking for in the sign report?
Is it possible to get a picture of the sign?
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head, but we'll note that. I suspect Zach doesn't know because I did come to him this afternoon and ask him to do this for this evening. But I don't know if the building commissioner is using the same sign application that the planning board was using. I assume that they do have to submit some sort of rendering so that you can see that it's in compliance. But I don't know what happens to those sign applications after they get submitted. It's obviously not the information that's input into the work software here.
Right, should we ask if Paul, so all of these signs that we're looking at right here on this list came in on a sign application to the planning board? So since those are not coming to us anymore, I can imagine that people are still needing to submit that same information to Paul in order for him to approve the sign. Is it just, I guess, is it just a simple ask to Paul, like what sign applications did you receive this month?
Zach, did you talk to Paul or did you talk to Heidi?
I talked to Heidi first off to like figure out the process. One, is this available? Is this a simple like ask Heidi to print out the report every month type of thing? And it opened up the question, which I think I found is a larger question with Paul to say, hey, like what are all the applications coming in and what are the signs and can you give us that information?
Or if folks are filling out a sign application for Paul, I can imagine that they are, he's probably saving those applications somewhere in a repository.
So
Is
are
it,
you wanting to see, are you wanting to see literally the sign application, like the sign application you used to get? It's just that you don't deliberate over it anymore, but you still look at the applications?
I think it could be in the active case file, just put it under a new category. Obviously, under it's a land use thing. It's commercial. I would say that Paul, they're all digitally submitted files with pictures and drawings and the application form. Why not? It's public information. It should go into that case file somewhere, just under a separate, start a new folder called the sign applications.
we're not doing anything with it, Corinne, but I think it's more of just like a, hey, this is what's going on around town. It loosely touches the work that we're doing. It's kind of a good frame of reference to have.
Remember, we're elected officials, so we're going to get questions from residents. And yes, we'll say we no longer really get involved with the sign process. But however, it'd be nice to point somebody to say, well, this is public information and it should be a public access. And I think that's, you can't just all hide in a file and you have to go down there and tell Paul you're going to put the Freedom of Information Act on them. They have to.
Or I guess another example might be, I'm just looking here, sign for latest craze bakery. We see this on the report tonight and we're like, oh, there's a bakery going in at 469 Long Meadow Street. We should be receiving some sort of, something related to site and design review at some point. I think it's just really an FYI, this is what's going on around town. These are things that might come across our desk.
No, you're right, Cheryl, because for example, they might only be doing a sign. It could be a new storefront. People are going, what's going on here? I mean, I would hope any new business would get more publicity, but it is nice to have that in a repository somewhere that people can access.
Right. So I guess like what I'm asking for clarification on is that information is here, like sign for the latest craze bakery. But what I'm also hearing is that you want to see the full application with the renderings. So if that's the case, we can ask, Heidi to be scanning the full application and we'll just, either put them in a new active case files file like Walter suggested, or we'll make PDFs and attach them to the agenda.
Well, let me ask you this, Jay, since you're on the line here. So say latest craze, the building commissioner. Okay, so let's go back to our signs on the intersection of William Street. So 2 signs go in. What if the planning board is not crazy about that? What if we really want to vote to appeal the building commissioner's decision? Now, this has happened rarely in Long Meadow. I think it's only happened like once or twice. But how would the planning board even know to appeal something that they don't think is right? Because we're sort of keepers of the
what do you mean not
bylaws
right?
as well.
What do you mean?
Because we don't agree with the 2 sign that the building commissioner is. We think he's out of control. Let's say he does gigantic signs, and we don't know.
He's just putting signs up all over town. And we're like,
signs all over
no,
town.
thanks.
It just says Jersey Mike's, and it's on every corner. I mean, what is our appeal process? What is the appeal process to a building commissioner's decision? Obviously, it's ZBA, right?
If the building commissioner is not complying with the zoning bylaw, then you can seek and request enforcement the same way anyone else can.
How? What's that process?
You write a letter to the building commissioner and tell him that you want a sign to come down because it doesn't comply with the zoning bylaws. If you just don't like a sign, that's not it. But if it violates the zoning bylaws, the planning board has the authority and standing to request zoning enforcement.
So there you go. So that now we have to put the horse in front of the cart, and that is somewhere he needs to publish this information, because Cheryl, Bruce, Bryant, nobody wants to get a phone call from a resident saying, oh my God, did you see that new sign up the Big Y? It's 100 feet long and 20 feet up. And we're like, what? We don't know anything about it. And that's what I'm saying. So there's got to be some mutual respect for public information. See, I think Paul should publish something.
Well, I do want to argue that point maybe a little bit. And the way that the bylaw is written,
Mhm.
the building commissioner has the authority to permit a sign. The building commissioner is the building commissioner and permits many additions, new constructions. Not all of those permits, those thousands of permits, have to go somewhere that's like, can be accessed at the click of a mouse by anybody. The
I thought they were.
information
I thought
is
they're on the-
public.
I thought it's
The
in the
informa-
permitting portal. I thought it's all
Yeah.
available.
Yes, and so this is available in that permitting portal as well.
Okay.
This not, this is from that permitting portal that like what you're looking at right here. So that isn't to say that I wouldn't ask, if the board decides you want to see this, I wouldn't ask for those, renderings, and I can put them in a special folder for you. But I don't think it's like a freedom of information type request. It's something that the planning board wants to see. It's not like the public needs to know.
I agree with that, Corinne. Like we were talking about before, I think it's just an FYI. This is going on around town. It loosely touches the work that we're doing, and it's just kind of nice to know.
People do have a misconception of what the planning board can do. I mean, I have to correct people all the time. They think we can just go out and, that we're the enforcement agency for starters, which you have to correct people on. We're not. But they do see our name. It's on the header. They'll call us, they'll email you. And I don't know. I know it's extra work for you. It's crazy, but
Yeah, I'm not worried about the extra work. And we get those calls too, believe me, Walter. So
that's exactly right. So
yeah.
you can, at least it's
about all
working.
sorts of things. So Zach, you and I can talk, not during the meeting, offline about maybe how to strategize with Heidi about how to get the more full information and what a more streamlined approach to that would look like. Probably the active case files folder is a good idea. We would
Sounds
call it
good.
something else. It wouldn't be active case files, but
Of
we
course,
can
whatever you
talk
want
about
to
that.
do.
Sounds good.
And then I think you probably wouldn't even have to create this report at all. I think that they could just be there. And if you saw one that came in, you could just put a link to it on the agenda, and that's it.
Yeah, we don't need to see this every month because it won't happen every month. I mean, like you said, they're very infrequent and they come in clusters. They don't come at all. So just pile it up somewhere.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it from my comments.
Okay. Quickly, I'll just go through to ask if there's any updates from the Community Preservation Committee, Walter.
There's another meeting tomorrow night at the high school, and it's just to recommend or not recommend the redevelopment of the waterfront property down by the yacht club.
Oh, okay, sure.
Oh, that's all.
Okay. Bryant, do you have any update from the Energy and Sustainability Committee?
Yeah, they talked about the specialized code.
Okay.
And, they want to set up some general public meetings to get the general public informed about these. So when it does come to vote, people will know what it's all about and stuff like that. It's a little bit complicated, but it's not going to really affect the majority of the residents and landowners in town, personal properties and stuff. And then they put a Homeworks mailer in this month's water bill to get more people to get involved with getting their more efficient energy, their homes and heating and insulation and stuff to, get more green and stuff like that for the.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bryant. Keep us posted on the public engagement sessions. I'm sure I would like to attend if we can. Chris, anything new on the middle school building committee?
So we got our architect proposals in January, and they went to the state for interviews at the end of January. And then we should know who our person is next week.
Oh, that's awesome. How many architect proposals did we receive?
Only 3. So they're pretty good choices, so that's good. Some probably, in my opinion, better than others, but we'll see what ultimately we don't really decide, the state decides. They kind of assign us who they want us to use. So we're allowed to, at least like the principals are, and Marty is allowed to give their opinions, but it's all really up to MSBA who they want to assign. So we have a meeting next Wednesday, so we'll find out who we get, and then we'll get them under contract and they'll start work. They're supposed to start going into the schools at the end of February and looking into them. So
okay, awesome. Keep us posted.
Are those movies? Are those meetings? Are they hybrid? Are they Zoomed or Chris?
They're typically hybrid, but pretty much everyone comes in person.
Okay, just curious. Thank-
Walter, anything new on the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission?
Nope. Except
Okay.
Jay doesn't like our CPCT training. That's all right. You're forgiven. I agree.
Okay, I don't think we received any correspondence. I don't have any other announcements. Any other planning board member comments? No, any visitor comments? Hi, Lizzie, you can unmute yourself, I think. I don't know. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I am Liz Bone, and I am kind of calling in from the Energy and Sustainability Committee. I just wanted to follow up about when we sent you an email about in regards to the stretch code. And I just wanted to talk about, because I know that you guys have a big project, or not you have a big project, but the Yeshiva Academy project coming up. And we just wanted to ensure that if we can help, or if you're going to plan on communicating to them about the stretch code requirements and that they're being met. We think that the builder should be aiming for the specialized option of stretch code because these buildings are likely to be still around in 2050 when every building needs to be up to net zero. And all buildings generally give off a third of the green gases. So it's really important to get them up to net zero. And with the upcoming permit for the large addition to Yeshiva Academy, we hope that they're aware of the specialized stretch code and that they're going to, and their developer and maybe be aware, and that they're going to ensure that it's going to be met. So
Okay, so
all
I
I'd like
think,
to say.
Lizzie, I think I'd invite you back to the public hearing next month so that you
Yeah.
can make a
Yeah,
public
that's what I
comment
meant
on
to
the
come
record.
for.
But I'm sure that Paul is working, diligently and closely with the parties here to remind them of what codes and, other guidelines need to be met. But I'd invite you
Okay.
to come back next month.
Okay, so and also please, anytime if you need any resources on green energy or anything like that, we are always here and we would love to collaborate with you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, long meeting. Take care.
Okay. All right. I'm making a motion to adjourn the meeting. It's 9:04.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Cheryl, yes. Walter,
Yes.
Bryant,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Yeah,
Bruce.
yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, we'll see everyone next month. Chris, we heard you took out some papers.
Yes, I
So-
finally was
Okay.
in town during the day. So
Yes, awesome. All right, good. Let us know if you need help with your signatures.
okay.
All right. Bye,
Hey, good night,
everyone.
everyone. Bye-bye.